and welcome back to Mouthing Off with Mike, the only wrestling podcast that will never financially recover. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've been keeping up with me on social media at MOWM_podcast, you'll know that over the last couple weeks, there has been the saga of me versus technology, and more importantly, computers. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you heard me on the recap that I dropped from Revolution, where I was joined with two fourths of the Four Sides of the Ring podcast, make sure you check out their stuff. You heard me say that I had some technology issues. You heard me say it in the Revolution prediction video. I was down tremendous, but now we've got a brand new shiny computer, and we should be able to continue to make some high quality content for all of you that do watch and or listen, whether you're watching on my YouTube at MOWM_wrestling podcast, or you're watching, or I should say, or you're listening on the audio side on Spotify, on Apple, all of the podcast platforms, or if you're listening on the Tobacco Road Sports Radio. So, ladies and gentlemen, this was a crazy week of professional wrestling on the WWE side, the AEW side, and I was thoroughly sports entertained. So, everybody, let's go ahead and just sit back, relax. Let's go ahead and talk about the graps from this past week.
Mouthing off with Mike, mouthing off with Mike, mouthing off with Mike.
You know, I like to start every episode of Mouthing Off with Mike with usually the first wrestling show on the week, and that's usually Monday Night Raw. Ladies and gentlemen, Monday Night Raw was really good. We are really focusing on these stories on both Raw and SmackDown, and hell, even in the NXT side of things when it comes to WrestleMania weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Monday Night Raw is going to get started off with Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. Now, The Rock was on SmackDown last Friday, and this I was in attendance for. It was really fun, really awesome to see Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in living color, in person. The vibes, the entrance, the promo, the finally, the if you smell, everything just hit different. I have goosebumps just talking about it right now. But what I want to talk about is Cody and Seth are basically essentially responding to what's going on when it comes to WrestleMania, when it comes to The Rock, when it comes to Roman Reigns, because The Rock says instead of a singles match, they want a tag team match. And if Cody and Seth win, there will be no bloodline at WrestleMania for night 2 for the main event of Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. Now, The Rock says it, when Rock and Roman beat Cody and the clown emoji Seth Rollins is what The Rock has been calling Seth, then bloodline rules, ladies and gentlemen. Anything goes. Solo Sikoa is going to sing the national anthem. There's going to be a special guest referee. The Rock's going to be on commentary. So, look, I love this. Now, Cody and Seth are basically going to say, look, we're going to be live in attendance Friday night. We're going to confront you in person like you want to respond to this challenge. Seth Rollins goes on to call Dwayne Diarrhea Dwayne, and people were like, that's stupid. That was the point. That was the very point Seth Rollins was trying to get across, because he's trying to say, look, The Rock says the same corny stuff, and you guys all eat it up. That's a whole other discussion for another day. That was the point, ladies and gentlemen. The first little bit of action we're going to get on Monday Night Raw. We got the Ring General Luther taking on Dirty Dominic Mysterio, and shout out to Dominic Mysterio. He recently got married to his longtime girlfriend, of course, longtime fiance, this past week. So shout out to Dirty Dom. He's a married man, ladies. So back off and stop with the thirst tweets and all of that content that I've seen. Dirty Dom gets his chest absolutely caved in, looking like ground beef after Gunther defeats him on Monday Night Raw, which leads Adam Pearce to go ahead and make the announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, we are getting an Intercontinental Championship #1 contenders gauntlet match next Monday on Monday Night Raw. And ladies and gentlemen, I am amped to be hell up. Yes. You want to hear about this gauntlet match, ladies and gentlemen, and the competitors in it, because we got some big names. We've got 3 former Intercontinental Champions, and we got 3 guys who are looking to make an impact. We got Ricochet. We got Sami Zayn. We got Shinsuke Nakamura. We got Bronson Reed. We got Chad Gable and we got JD McDonough, a.k.a. JD McFunko Pop Head. This gauntlet match next Monday on Monday Night Raw could be a match of the year candidate for TV. We already had one of those on Dynamite this past week with its main event with Ospreay and Fletcher. I'll talk in a little bit about that. So the Intercontinental Championship #1 contender will be determined next week, but Gunther absolutely slapped the living taste out of Dominic Mysterio's mouth, I will say. Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark beat Katana and Kaden in a very fast women's tag team match. Something's got to be done about that women's tag team division. Kabuki Warriors, I thought when they won the titles, there was going to be big things popping. But unfortunately, it hasn't really lived up to my expectations. But there's still time for things to improve on the road to WrestleMania. As we know, the road to WrestleMania has always been a topsy-turvy road, and there's always a twist up behind the bushes. Nia Jax beat Becky Lynch via disqualification thanks to Liv Morgan, who is on her revenge tour. Ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and cry about it because Liv Morgan will take on Becky Lynch next week on Raw. Love this Liv Morgan character arc we've got going on. Love Becky and Nia still beefing. A lot of people want to see Becky, Liv, Rhea, and Nia in a potential fatal four-way or triple threat with Liv in there with Rhea and Becky. I'm going to say it, guys, ladies and gentlemen. I said it on the Two Heads, One Table SmackDown Island Twitter Spaces. They have avoided this match for years, Rhea and Becky that being, for this very reason, because they want it to be a marquee WrestleMania match. They want these two to lock up and it be a moment like no other, just like they did with Bianca and Sasha, and that was in a moment all on its own. They're doing the same thing with Rhea and Becky. They did it with Becky and Bianca at WrestleMania 38, and that was a hell of a match. Let it play out. As much as I want to see Liv and Nia on WrestleMania in that match, it probably won't happen. I'd love to see them take on one another, or I've said it, Jade, but I think Jade's going to SmackDown. We're starting to tease that. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the final mouth-off. You know I love me some Jade Cargill. Andrade is making his formal return Raw debut against someone we haven't seen since the draft, ladies and gentlemen. The guy was drafted to Monday Night Raw, and he disappeared. Apollo Crews has made his Monday Night Raw debut in 2024. The draft was in 2023, ladies and gentlemen. Andrade beat Apollo Crews in a fantastic match, at least for a statement match for Andrade. Something tells me that they're going to cook something up real good for Andrade, possibly in that Intercontinental Championship realm post-WrestleMania. Time will tell. The Judgment Day took on Imperium, and they won. Sami Zayn is going to take on Ivar in a really good match here. Sami Zayn won after the match. That is when all of the competitors in the gauntlet match attacked everybody, and there was a whole big brawl. Drew McIntyre taking on Jey Uso was your main event of Monday Night Raw, ladies and gentlemen, thanks to the Bloodline, or Fear the Rock. The Bloodline, Jimmy Uso, Solo Sikoa showed their faces here at the end of Monday Night Raw, distracting Jey Uso for Drew McIntyre to hit the Claymore to get the win. After the match, the Bloodline wants to jump Jey Uso. Here comes Seth. Here comes Cody. They make the save. Seth runs right past Drew. Drew doesn't take too kindly to that. And he goes ahead and he stomps out Seth frickin' Rollins. Hate to say it, ladies and gentlemen, Seth is so hyper-fixated on helping Cody Rhodes with the Bloodline. I know everybody's speculating that Seth's going to turn on Cody. I don't think so. Seth genuinely wants to see Roman lose. He wants that title back in the hands of someone who is there weekly, monthly, who will defend that title. That is what this is, ladies and gentlemen. This is your, I've seen it been described a few times. This is your endgame to your Infinity War. That's what this is. That's what this WrestleMania is. They're billing it as the biggest WrestleMania ever. Seth, Roman, and Cody will main event 2 nights of WrestleMania. Seth, Roman, Cody, and Roman and The Rock, they'll all be in that tag match on Saturday. Cody and Roman have the main event night 2. So Cody and Roman will main event back-to-back nights of WrestleMania. Insane number. Seth finally gets that WrestleMania main event he has long waited for and has deserved for a while. And Drew also will probably get that title win he deserves in front of a crowd. Monday Night Raw kept the juices flowing on a one more month till WrestleMania. Let's get ahead and get into the big final show for NXT before NXT Stand and Deliver. That's NXT Roadblock. Ladies and gentlemen, you hear me say it almost weekly on the show. If you are sleeping on NXT, you better wake your asses up and watch NXT on Tuesdays, because NXT Roadblock this week was a fantastic show, ladies and gentlemen. Kicked off the match. Dijak, Joe Gacy, in an asylum match, kicked off NXT this past week. What a match. What an absolute match. You got 6'7" Dijak doing moonsaults off the top of cages onto Joe Gacy. You got boxes that when you open it, it has a punching, a boxing glove that punched Dijak in the nuts. This match was chaos. It was so fun. It was a great opener. Dijak gets an awesome win here against Joe Gacy. These two, ladies and gentlemen, have elevated one another to levels that I didn't think were possible for either of them. They're doing absolute wonders in NXT. Dijak is one of my favorites right now in NXT. Joe Gacy is so underrated when it comes to his character work and his psychology in the ring. Same with Dijak. Nothing but love and flowers to these two guys. Dijak, please don't hit me with a ratio on Twitter, my man. Nothing but love and praise to you. Man, NXT Tag Champs, Braun Breaker, Baron Corbin. What a refresher for Braun Breaker and Corbin. You know, Corbin came down to NXT to, enhance his character over the last months, maybe almost going on a year now. And it is working out so well. And Braun Breaker really needed something to really kind of keep his momentum going. He got drafted to SmackDown a couple weeks, so he's now officially on the main roster, part-time, so to speak. But him and Corbin as a tag team has been phenomenal. They beat Chase U in a really good NXT Tag Team Championship match. Shawn Spears took on newcomer to NXT, Uriah Connors, who is the son of Fit Finlay. Fit Finlay has a couple kids out there wrestling. We've got one in New Japan, and we also have one here in NXT now. Shawn Spears has the exact same presentation, minus maybe his ring music, his entrance music, but it is almost exactly to his AEW character, the chairman. The only difference I would say is now his character is more psychological, and he's more of a kind of play with your brain type of character. I like it. I'm going to let it play out. It's great to have Shawn Spears back. I had a lot going on when it came to the technology side, so I didn't get to cover his return to NXT and WWE, but it is so great to see him. I was a big fan of his before he left to AEW. I was a big fan of his during AEW. So I'm excited for it. It should really be something I think that will help him majorly in becoming maybe, a guy on the mid roster you could see in a mid card role, a consistent mid card role. Women's Tag Championship was on the line. The Kabuki Warriors defended against Lyra Valkyria and her new BFF / stalker Tatum Paxley. Solid match. Kabuki Warriors win, retain their titles. They're on a crash course next Monday with Shayna and Zoe Stark. So interesting to note. After the match, Roxanne Perez has officially snapped and attacked Lyra Valkyria. Roxanne with an attitude is awesome. I've been waiting to see her turn heel for probably about a year now, since she's been screwed over the NXT Women's Championship multiple times. This is a great character arc for her, and it really is working well. Fallon Henley beat Blair Davenport in a really solid match. And Tony D'Angelo and Carmelo Hayes main evented NXT Roadblock to determine Ilya Dragunov's opponent at NXT Stand and Deliver WrestleMania Philly weekend. My goodness. You could see I'm out of touch recently. Tony D defeats Carmelo Hayes thanks to a little distraction, a little game that he played with Trick Williams' entrance theme hitting mid-match, distracting Carmelo long enough for the Don to book his ticket to NXT Stand and Deliver WrestleMania weekend against the Mad Dragon, Ilya Dragunov. Tony D, you're going to have to take notes from all of the Italian greats, all right? You hear me? Talking to you. Rocky Balboa, you're going to have to learn a little bit about. You have to get take some notes. You have to take some notes from Don Corleone. All right? You're going to have to take some notes from Michael Corleone. You might even have to sprinkle a couple notes from Goodfellas. You might have to take a couple notes there. I'm just saying. We're going to have to get the training montage. We're going to have to get you out there in Philly. You get a little gabagool when you win the NXT Championship, a little celebration. Just saying. cannolis, gabagool, prosciutto, whatever you want, Tony D, it's on me. Don't worry. I got you. When you win that NXT title, WrestleMania Stand and Deliver weekend. Ladies and gentlemen, NXT Roadblock, great show. I really enjoyed it this week. NXT, like I said, if you're sleeping on it, don't. Whoop that trick. Trick Williams is back. Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams, WrestleMania Stand and Deliver weekend. Wow, that's going to be a generational match. That's going to be a talk about in 5-10 years. Where were you when Mellow Trick Gang imploded and they had probably a match of the night, Stand and Deliver weekend? That story, ladies and gentlemen, one of the best stories NXT has put together, dare I say, since Ciampa and Gargano's story. NXT, love it. Can't complain about it ever. Oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, do we got a lot to talk about when it comes to Friday Night SmackDown? I'm gonna sit back. I'm gonna get a little cozy here. Maybe we'll hit you with a little bit of that action. I do too much, ladies and gentlemen. Look, Logan Paul kicked off the show here on Friday Night SmackDown live from Dallas, Texas. WWE's 6th sellout when it comes to their live shows recently. So they're cooking on all cylinders, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the final mouth off. You know how we do here. Logan Paul kicks off the show with a massive announcement. Starting WrestleMania and here on out, Logan Paul, Prime Hydration is the official WWE center mat sponsor. And I'll pop it up here. Logan Paul, Prime, will be center right there on the mat in the middle of a WWE ring. For the first time ever, a sponsor will be right there in the middle of the ring. Insane. Logan Paul, love to hate him, ladies and gentlemen, but you got to give credit where credit is due. This dude is making money. He's making moves. He just knows what to do business-wise, and I have to take notes from him. Like, legitimately, if you're someone like me, you're a content creator, you're doing this, you're in, podcasting, whatever, you got to take notes from this dude. Obviously, it took him years and years and years, and sometimes, you get a lucky break here and there. Obviously, he had to overcome some large battles, some scandals and things like that you hopefully don't have to handle yourself. But at the end of the day, you got to give credit where credit is due. Look at what he's been able to accomplish. Randy Orton comes on out. He's mad about Logan Paul hitting him with the brass knucks Elimination Chamber. He goes to hit Logan with an RKO. Logan gets the hell out of there. Man's sixth sense, spidey sense was tingling. KSI was in attendance, and he got an RKO. He sold it really well right there on the center of that new Prime advertisement. And then Randy took the new Prime flavor, gave it a sip, said, "This is really good," and then poured it all over KSI's junk. It looked like he peed himself, and then he poured a little bit on his face for good measure, tossed the bottle in the crowd, and we got right into Randy Orton and Kevin Owens taking on Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, A-Town down under. Randy and Kevin Owens got the win after the match. Logan Paul tried to attack them with the brass knucks. Randy was able to get him away from Logan, almost hitting Kevin Owens in the process, but he doesn't, and KO and Randy knuckle bump it out, and everything's all good. Puts those brass knuckles in his trunks to keep him safe and sound in his junk. Ladies and gentlemen, could we be getting Kevin Owens and Randy Orton versus KSI and Logan Paul at WrestleMania? I don't even know how I feel about that. I don't even know about the sentence I just said. But that's a strong possibility. We got a fantastic video, backstage video with AJ Styles, super intense. He got right there. He got right up in our faces. He was all up in our grill, and he told everybody why he attacked LA Knight, why he flew all 18 hours to Australia to attack LA Knight and screw him over for the World Heavyweight Championship. LA Knight watched the video backstage on a TV and absolutely destroyed the TV with a steel chair. Yeah, this feud with LA Knight and AJ Styles colored me very intrigued. I wanted Knight versus Logan Paul for the U.S. title, but I'd be A-okay with LA Knight and AJ Styles at WrestleMania. LA Knight gets a big win against the Phenomenal One at WrestleMania. Now that's awesome. Yeah. Bobby Lashley and Karrion Kross absolutely tore the house down in a big meaty men bumping, big muscle match. There's a no contest once again here. AOP came out and attacked Bobby Lashley once he got the hurt lock on Karrion Kross. But, ladies and gentlemen, there's a big but here. But this is a really solid match for SmackDown. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I love me some Karrion Kross. I love me some Bobby Lashley. I love me some AOP and Paul Ellering. And of course, how could you not love the Street Profits, B-Fab, and Scarlett? What I would like to see, and this is me fantasy booking a little bit here, so hold on a sec, bear with me. I would not be mad at the prospect of a 4-on-4 mixed person cage match at WrestleMania. How awesome would that be? When was the last time you ever had a mixed cage match happen? Let alone in WWE, let alone at WrestleMania. And I think that's a perfect way for this story to end. You got AOP, Cross, Scarlett against the Street Profits, Bobby Lashley, B-Fab, 4-on-4 cage match, mixed person, book it, Triple H. I love it. At least in my mind, I'm booking it. I might have to go ahead and play that one on the new WWE 2K24 game, which is out now. I am not sponsored by WWE 2K24, but if you want to sponsor me, WWE, please do, 2K. I would absolutely love it. I love the game this year. It's a great game. It's super fun. The WrestleMania 40 showcase, the showcase of WrestleMania, that 40 years whole thing, super tedious. Make sure you Irish whip your opponent into the southeast corner, or else you won't unlock those wrestlers or those arenas. And that is a real objective. It was Irish whip your opponent. I think it was Irish whip Hulk Hogan into the southeast objective and hit him with a light grapple. That was just one objective. Really fun game. Nevertheless, 2K, sponsor me, please. We had a fantastic video highlighting Bayley and the saga with Damage Control on the road to WrestleMania. We got a backstage segment later on with Damage Control where they mocked her. We're going to get Dakota Kai versus Bayley next week on SmackDown. Should be very interesting. But backstage, we saw Naomi watching Bayley and watching this video, and Bianca was there, and Naomi was like, I can't help but feel bad. And Bianca's like, girl, what? Feel bad? I don't feel bad at all. And I lost it. She said, feel bad for what? Me? Why? I thought that was hysterical, man. Bianca got absolutely destroyed by Damage Control for like the entire year of 2023. She went through hell and back with them. So she loves to see Bayley reaping what she sows and getting turned on by Damage Control, the very faction that she started and brought back to WWE. So Bianca, she's all here for that irony and that. I'm not even going to try to say it. Forget it. She is all here for that irony and a little bit of that tea, as they say. We got Tiffany Stratton taking on Mi Shin. Good match here from a rematch from a couple weeks ago. Tiffany Stratton gets the win. She kind of slips up on the prettiest moonsault ever, recovers like a professional. You'd never know if she did. Dragon Lee took on Angel of Legado del Fantasma. He got the win, and he got jumped by Legado. No LWO to save him. Rey Mysterio will be back next week on SmackDown. So maybe Dom might have been right. Where was LWO to save Dragon Lee? What's up with that, man? Cody Rhodes, Seth freaking Rollins, The Rock, and Roman Reigns. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. The answer to the challenge. Will Cody Rhodes and Seth freaking Rollins accept The Rock and Roman's challenge for a tag team match at WrestleMania? Ladies and gentlemen, they do accept. But here's the kicker. And here's the cool part. Seth and Cody came through the crowd tonight. Very reminiscent of Seth's Shield days. Could that be foreshadowing that Seth will turn on the American Nightmare at WrestleMania? This podcaster doesn't believe so. Now, when it comes to the answer and everything that's been said and done, Cody tries to get a nice promo together, and he speaks so eloquently. The Rock tells him, shut up, kid. All right, Rock, what do you got to say? He goes on to say, let me remind you of the stakes, and we know the stakes. If Rock and Roman win, it's Bloodline rules for the Night 2 main event. If Cody and Seth win, the Bloodline will not be ringside for the match. Before he can finish that and tell us that, Seth cuts him off and says, shut up. He goes on to tell him and insults him and says, take your midlife crisis ass on out of here. Then Rock goes ahead and says to Cody at the end of this whole thing, after they accept the challenge, Seth accepts it, and Cody kind of looks at him like, did you just do that? And then there's some, a little bit of division being played where Cody tries to play that Roman, The Rock is no longer the tribal chief because he acknowledged Roman. They're trying to plant some seeds of doubt between those two. Roman tries to do the same with Seth and Cody after saying, are you going to let your man talk for you now, Cody? It's very good storytelling here with this promo. Then we get The Rock, who says, well, you know why there's a 20-year difference between you and your brother? Well, it's because you were a mistake. He just said that this man was a mistake. He also got fact-checked by Cody's sister. Cody's sister and him only have a 3-year difference. I actually saw that on social media, so The Rock was wrong on that one. Now, yes, Dustin and Cody do have close to a 2-decade difference, a 20-year difference there in age. As for this moment, ladies and gentlemen, this was incredible. This was awesome. This promo set everything up nicely in a bow. Roman and Cody are going to main event night 1 in this tag match, and then they're going to main event night 2 in their match. And The Rock got slapped, finally. Cody was told that he was a mistake, and Cody was about to talk. He looked at the mic, and he just gave The Rock a nice slap across the face to end SmackDown. Great stuff here. WWE firing on all cylinders on the road to WrestleMania, and I wouldn't be too shocked to see this man pop up at WrestleMania as a potential host. And I'm pointing to CM Punk. If you're listening on the audio side, I'm wearing my CM Punk hoodie. But there's a strong chance that maybe CM Punk might show up as a WrestleMania host. John Cena hinted on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon that he is free for WrestleMania. So maybe you will see, or maybe you can't see John Cena at WrestleMania. WrestleMania is heating up, ladies and gentlemen. We got a lot to talk about in the final mouth-off here. But first, let's talk AEW.
Now they off with Mike. Now they off with Mike. Now they off with Mike.
It's Wednesday. You know what that means, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for AEW Dynamite, and we've got the post-AEW Revolution Dynamite coming at you with brand new stage, brand new music to open, brand new graphics, and a brand new logo to boot. Ladies and gentlemen, I made the joke that AEW Dynamite has entered its NXT 2.0 era, but I can't even make that joke because technically Dynamite started first with all the colors in the original inception 2019 of Dynamite. So that joke's a little played out. At the end of the day, we start off Dynamite with whose house? Swerve's house. Swerve's got a promo here, and he goes to say something's changed recently. The fans getting behind him. He's a changed man. But that doesn't stop the Undisputed Kingdom and Samoa Joe from interrupting, and we get a long, drawn-out promo to start. AEW Dynamite, the same thing that we'd see on a Monday Night Raw. And usually, Dynamite's different when it comes to that kind of thing. Usually, we're getting right into the action. You know, you get a little promo here and there right after. But for the most part, we've started to see more promos starting Dynamite. And I'm not opposed to that. I'm all for it. It's been advancing stories, and it's continuing to advance stories in Dynamite as well. So, with that being said, this ends up leading into Swerve and Joe taking on the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions, Bennett and Taven, which is very interesting. Now, Swerve and Joe get the win, but that doesn't stop right after the match. You know, Swerve and Joe potentially beefing again. And it also sets up Joe and Wardlow. Now, we know Wardlow won the All-Star Scramble match at Revolution, so now he's got a number 1 contender match for the world title. So that'll happen at Big Business next week on Dynamite, where we're also supposed to see the debut of Mercedes Moné. Maybe, more than likely, yes. That's all signs point to that. We're going to get a backstage interview with Hook, with Renee Paquette, that Chris Jericho shows up for. He goes on to say he sees a lot of his good friend Taz in Hook, who is Taz's son. And Jericho goes on to have Hook's back after he beats Brian Cage for the FTW Championship. Some of the Mogul Embassy members came out to attack Hook, but Jericho warded them off. Interesting. So now it looks like Hook and Jericho are going to have some sort of tag team turned rivalry. The Jericho-verse strikes again, ladies and gentlemen, and it seems Hook has now been sucked into the ever-growing black hole of the Jericho-verse. And I'd say that with respect. I love Chris Jericho, but it is at a time and a point where I feel Chris Jericho might be doing more harm than good for some stories and for wrestlers right now. That is my personal opinion. I will always respect and honor what Chris Jericho has done in wrestling up to this point, but something definitely feels off with his work, and I just can't put my finger on it. And I'm not here to say, like, talk down on the guy. It's just one of those things where he kind of stunted Takeshita's momentum. He stunted Adam Cole's momentum for a bit there. I just don't want the same to happen with Hook because he just got his momentum back, Hook. That's my thing, man. I take it with a grain of salt. I'm just a a small-time wrestling podcast. Killswitch takes on Daddy Magic. Daddy Magic loses to Killswitch. After the match, Adam Copeland, the Rated R superstar, has returned, and he challenges Christian to an I Quit match in 2 weeks on Dynamite in Canada. Oh, baby, things are heating up between those two. The AEW Tag Team Championships have been vacated by Sting and Darby Allin. So there will be a tag team tournament to decide the new champions. Now, the Young Bucks have a big announcement, and they also make fun of Tony Khan with his announcements. They also make fun of Triple H with his point, because the announcement that the Young Bucks go on and make is that Hangman has been suspended for laying his hands on 2 referees this past week at Revolution, and have also kicked Kenny Omega out of the Elite and replaced him with the Rainmaker. Kazuchika Okada is all elite, ladies and gentlemen. We now get the distinguished honor and pleasure of seeing Okada wrestle weekly in the U.S., in the States. I don't have to stay up till 2 a.m. to watch an Okada match. Hallelujah. I get to watch it on Wednesdays on TBS now. And oh boy, is this going to be awesome. He is a heel. He has aligned himself with your EVPs, Nicholas and Matthew, and they beat down Eddie Kingston, who comes out to confront the Young Bucks, and he gets hit with a Rainmaker, Kingston. So things will heat up, I'm sure. Collision, we're going to see the debut of the new and improved Elite. So Kenny Omega and Hangman are out of the Elite for the moment. Kenny Omega for sure out. Hangman kind of suspended. His spot's kind of in the balance here. A lot of theories going around that a certain Jack Perry might be joining the Elite. We got Chris Statlander taking on Rio. She actually loses to Rio because Stokely gives her a chain, and she hesitates to use the chain. She doesn't use it. Rio gets the advantage and wins. We're going to see Willow versus Rio next week. Interesting to see how this happens. If Stokely will give Willow a weapon to try to use, and if Willow will not use it and then in fact lose, and then Willow and Chris turn on Stokely, or they turn on one another. Something to take note. Something to take note, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for the main event, ladies and gentlemen. We got a Ring of Honor World TV champ, Kyle Fletcher, taking on his own Don Callis family member, the Aerial Assassin, the Billy Goat, Will Ospreay, ladies and gentlemen. He's making his Dynamite, quote-unquote, debut. He's already wrestled for AEW multiple times before he signed an official AEW contract and before he had his in-ring debut at Revolution, but I will continue to call it his AEW Revolution, or his AEW Dynamite debut, because he's now under an AEW contract. No, so before you go ahead and get on me on social media about that one, I'm just going to nip that one right in the ass before it happens. Ladies and gentlemen, Ospreay, holy cow, that man he's got multiple engines. That man is a V8 Hemi supercharged engine. He can go, he can wrestle, he can do it all. The man's doing moves that you should be waiting to do before you come back from picture-in-picture commercial break. He's doing crazy moves in picture-in-picture. He just wants to go out there, and he just wants the ball for you. He beats Kyle Fletcher. Fantastic match. These two have great chemistry together. We obviously know as the Aussie Empire tag team, and then we now know with them in the Callis family, Fletcher and Ospreay, you know they're good friends. You know they got a good allyship going. But what a hell of a match to end AEW Dynamite. Really solid Dynamite here on the post. Rebound from Revolution. But before we wrap up Dynamite, I got to talk about Darby Allin's promo. Now, Darby vacated the tag team championships, and he goes on to say very emotionally that a lot of people said, why not just find a new partner? Well, how can he replace Sting? And he's right. You can't replace Sting. If my tag team partner was Sting and he retired and I'm the one half of the tag champs, who am I going to replace him with? Who? Nobody. That's who. Look, Sting's climbing Mount Everest in 2 weeks. Darby's, excuse me, Sting's not climbing Mount Everest. Sting is probably relaxing at home with his family. Darby is, in fact, climbing Mount Everest in 2.5, 3 weeks. So his match against Jay White on Big Business next week is his last AEW Dynamite for a long time. Potentially forever. Because he goes on to say that in his promo. It's not guaranteed that he's going to return from Everest. This promo felt wild. Because there's the potential that was Darby's last promo and his last match will happen. People do die, in fact, on Mount Everest. It happens. Had the most amount of deaths, I think, in 2023. The guy's a nut. I don't even know how to say it. Like, I'm getting, like, speechless just talking about it. I'm getting flabbergasted just saying that. He's going to wrestle on Dynamite. And then 2 weeks later, he's going to go climb Everest. And he cuts a promo that signifies that, you guys might not see me again, just in case this is my last promo. I love you all. Thank you, AEW. Thank you, Tony Khan. Thank you for everybody for supporting me. I'll see you next week against Jay White. And then he cuts a great promo on Jay White and like, come on, Jay, step it up. Like, what are you doing? You're over here playing with cardboard cutouts like you're supposed to be this premier wrestler. Oh, boy. He's a nut. I loved it. Dynamite, really good show. Honestly. Dynamite, if they continue with the momentum, next week you're going to get Mercedes, more than likely Sasha Banks. That momentum's going to be crazy. You just got Okada. You got Jay White. You got this whole thing cooking with the EVPs, the storyline down the line with Kenny Omega. We're cooking, ladies and gentlemen. Dynamite. Keep it going, Tony Khan. Keep it going, my man. I'm gonna cover it because I feel obligated to. If I'm covering 3 WWE shows, I want to cover 3 AEW shows. Rampage. Good Rampage lineup. Kip Sabian and the Butcher taking on Orange Cassidy and Trent Beretta. Cassidy, Trent get the win. House Rules AEW TBS Championship. Julia Hart taking on Robin Renegade. Julia retained her title. Solid match. Penta El Zero Miedo took on Action Andretti. Good match. Penta got the win. Brian Keith and Commander versus Top Flight and Private Party. Great match here. Private Party got the win. Overall, good episode of Rampage. And Saturday nights, all right for fighting, ladies and gentlemen. We got AEW Collision. We got the House of Black, Malachi Black, Brody King, and Buddy Matthews taking on Mark Briscoe, Jay Lethal, and Jeff Jarrett. It was a pretty solid street fight to start Collision, I have to say. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Really good stuff here. The House of Black got the win, and they powerbombed Mark Briscoe through a flaming table, guys. Anytime you get fire involved in a street fight, I'm all eyes. I'm paying attention. Mystico beat Angelico. We got Bryan Danielson taking on Shane Taylor in a fantastic match. What a dream match. I never thought we'd get to see Shane Taylor taking on Bryan Danielson. Great match. After the match is said and done, here comes Will Ospreay. Those two go back and forth at it, and an official challenge has been made. I called this, ladies and gentlemen. I called this at the end of Dynamite. I tweeted it. I will show the tweet on the video. I said, great camera work, great foreshadowing from the AEW production team when they showed Bryan Danielson come out after the Will Ospreay Kyle Fletcher match, and they did the live pan, and they showed the Dynasty in the background between the two of them. The challenge has been made. Danielson, Ospreay, dream match, AEW Dynasty, April. Oh, baby. The new and improved EVP Elite is here, ladies and gentlemen. Matthew and Nicholas Jackson and the Rainmaker, Kazuchika Okada, took on John Cruz, Liam Gray, and Adrian Alanis, and they defeated them. Eddie Kingston tried to attack the Elite, and Penta and a returning Pac came on down to the ring, and we've got ourselves 6-man tag action for Big Business next Wednesday. Ladies and gentlemen, Big Business next Wednesday for Dynamite. Looks awesome. Jay White Darby, this 6-man match. We got the Samoa Joe versus Wardlow championship match. And now potentially, more than likely, 100%, the debut of Mercedes Moné. Ooh, baby, we're cooking. Mariah May beat Trish Adora. Oh, my goodness. I love it. Guys, I love Toni Storm. I love Mariah May. I love the gimmick. Mariah May still dressed up like Toni Storm's old character. Tony gives the Tony Award to Mariah May, but Deonna Purrazzo attacked Toni Storm and then hit Purrazzo with a DDT. Oh boy, this story is still heating up. It does not look like Deonna is giving up on the AEW Women's Championship, and she shouldn't. Nick Wayne was in a match. He won And then after, Adam Copeland was dressed up like a fan and he attacked Christian. This was great stuff, guys, man. I absolutely love when we do corny stuff like that. Wrestling, when Sting did the reveal of himself under the Sting mask, when Darby did it a few weeks ago, that stuff is great. When you reveal the wrestler is the fan, I love it, man. Chris Jericho defeated Titan after the Mogul Embassy, or I should say the Gates of Agony, tried to attack Jericho, and Hook came out and saved Jericho. So you heard me say it looks like Jericho and Hook are going to have some sort of team for the moment, and then it looks like they're going to feud, so the Jericho-verse claims another victim. AEW Collision was a solid show for Saturday night. They got to do something different, I have to say, because you're going to have to battle MLB, March Madness, college football in a few months. I don't know if Collision can survive on Saturday nights, but I love watching Collision. I'm a Collider through and through, man. What can I say? Good stuff. AEW Big Business is going to be big business. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for everybody's favorite segment, your mom's included, the final mouth off with Mike, with me, ladies and gentlemen. WWE is once again firing on all cylinders, man. I don't think they've gotten off the gas since the summer, man. WWE is so good, man. They're telling multiple stories. All the stories are interconnected. Drew, Seth and Cody, the Bloodline, and Roman and Rock, and everything's connected. Everything's connected on the Raw side with the tag team division. What's going to happen? Now, Pierce and Aldis hinted just a couple weeks ago that they had a big announcement for the tag titles, but there hasn't been an announcement. I've been saying for months. If you watch the show, if you're a fan, if you're a supporter, which I appreciate if you are, if you're new, then you know that I'm an advocate. I'm an advocate for splitting the tag titles. I can't see a WrestleMania with one tag title match. Yeah, I know we had 39 and the Usos and KO and Zayn, and then you had the WrestleMania tag showcase matches. I get you can do that. But you have the chance to have SmackDown have a multi-tag person match for the tag titles. And you have a chance on Raw. Look at the teams on Monday Night Raw. These are off the top of my dome. I don't have them written down here. Okay? Let me go through this. Monday Night Raw's tag team division. Alpha Academy. Otis and Takira Tozawa. The Creed Brothers. DIY. Indashir, if they ever get booked on TV. Just putting that out there. The Judgment Day, obviously, are the champions. Okay. The Viking Raiders, when Eric's healthy. Obviously, I know he's going through neck fusion. I know that happened, maybe 6-7 months ago. So obviously that's still not in the cards. I hear you. Imperium. All right, that's 6 teams that are healthy, 7 technical teams with the Viking Raiders. Okay, that's off the top of my head. I'm sure I'm forgetting a team. Someone will tell me that I'm forgetting a key team on Monday Night Raw. But right off the top of my head, you got 6 teams. Let's go to SmackDown. Legado del Fantasma, the AOP, the Final Testament, the Street Profits, the LWO, Pretty Deadly, Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne. 6 teams again. And then if you want to count the Judgment Day, which obviously the Judgment Day I put on Raw. So we're not going to count the Judgment Day. You got 6 teams again. Once again, I'm more than likely forgetting a team or two on SmackDown. There's enough teams between Raw and SmackDown to split the tag titles and have a triple threat tag match or a Fatal 4 tag match for the SmackDown tag titles and have the Judgment Day stay the Raw tag team champions. Have Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce agree that they have to split the titles. Aldis wants a tag division and tag titles for himself. Have that be the storyline. Have Pearce say to Judgment Day, well, since you're a drafted Raw team, You will stay the Raw Tag Team Champions. The SmackDown Tag Team Championship will be vacated. A tournament will be determined to have teams face each other at WrestleMania. There it is. It all makes sense. Now you can have a SmackDown tag division. Now you can have a Raw tag division. And then you have the women's tag titles float between Raw and SmackDown and NXT. WWE made a poor decision in merging the NXT women's tag titles and the main roster tag titles for the women. Big mistake, because you've got a lot of women in NXT that don't get to fight for a championship other than the NXT Women's Championship. And you have a ton of teams on NXT as well on the women's side. So the NXT and men's tag divisions are cooking. The NXT tag division is great. Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin holding the titles, great. The main roster, you can split the titles feasibly. I think it can happen. I think it could be damn good TV, and I think you could have some fantastic matches, and you can really set up these teams to be highlighted and showcased. Jade Cargill has been hinting that she's coming for Damage Control. She just recently hinted it. Could Jade be an ally to Bayley heading to WrestleMania? Because Bayley's got a match against Dakota Kai next week on SmackDown. More than likely, Damage Control is going to be involved. Bayley doesn't have any allies except maybe Naomi, because we saw Naomi kind of feel bad for her backstage. Bianca has no sympathy because of what they did to her, and rightfully so. I wouldn't either. If you beat me down, if you injured me, you took me out of action for a few months, for a few weeks, I'm not going to care that you're getting beat up by the same group that you introduced and you had them on me. So all's fair in love and war. But I could definitely see Jade and Naomi being allies to Bayley and helping her out. Maybe Jade and Naomi is the tag team that defeats the Kabuki Warriors. Now, where does that leave Bianca Belair? Tiffany Stratton. They teased Tiffany Stratton and Bianca the first night Tiffany was on SmackDown. She stared at Bianca, but instead then slapped Mia Yim. And they had that first match, and then they had the rematch this week. Don't be surprised if it's Jade and Naomi versus the Kabuki Warriors. They're Bayley's backup. And Bianca and Tiffany Stratton have a match at WrestleMania. And then that leaves, now you're wondering, Mike, where do you do with the women's? Well, on Raw. Rhea and Becky's already decided. We don't need to add anybody to that match. I'm a believer. We don't need to. They've waited for this marquee match. Let's have it. Let's have it one-on-one. Liv and Nia is an option. Then you could go on to say Zoe and Shayna versus Naomi and Jade versus the Kabuki Warriors. Hell, you want to get crazy? Throw an NXT women's tag team in there. But that's where I think we're headed with the women for WrestleMania. As for the men, we know Drew and Seth's happening on night 2. We know Cody and Roman is the main event of night 2. We know Bayley and Io is taking place either night 1 or night 2. We know Becky and Rhea is taking place either night 1 or night 2. We know Roman, Rock, Cody, Seth is main eventing night 1. That leaves a lot of questions in the air for card placement. We know Jimmy and Jay is more than likely happening. So WrestleMania is starting to get filled up, ladies and gentlemen. And let me break down what I think we've got so far for WrestleMania. LA Knight versus AJ Styles. Jimmy versus Jay Uso. Cody and Seth versus Roman and Rock. Drew versus Seth. Cody versus Roman. Io versus Bayley. Becky versus Rhea. Then you have to figure out, okay, now your tag title situation. Is there going to be one tag match? Is there going to be multiple? Then your singles matches will fill in the rest of the card. Like those matches I've fantasy booked. You've got Cross and Lashley and that feud. You've got the LWO and Legado. You've got the potential breaking up of Austin Theory and Waller. You also have Kevin Owens, Randy Orton, and Logan Paul now. So the WrestleMania is starting to take some serious form. We're a month away, officially, as of the date of this episode, when it comes out for Sunday, you should be listening to this Sunday, mid-afternoon, watching it on YouTube because there's no sports on or there's nothing to watch, and I'm filling up your time. But overall, a lot to look forward to in WWE. On the AEW side, Revolution was a fantastic pay-per-view, one of the best AEW's put on. Thank you, Sting. What a way to go out. If you want to check my full Revolution recap, check out the video I did with Marcus and Martin from Four Sides of the Ring, who were there live in attendance. So you get a little bit of a different perspective. AEW is really cooking. The Rainmaker is all elite. We got Big Business, Mercedes Moné's debut, and a fantastic pay-per-view type card for a Wednesday on TBS. Big Business should be an all-time Dynamite episode for AEW if it's booked properly. All depends on what happens and how things look, but the women's division for AEW is on fire. Just need to see a little bit more from Tony on that side, and AEW is well-rounded then. Give me 1 to 2 women's matches per show. We get 1 a match on Dynamite. Give me 2 on Dynamite. Cut one of them pointless segments, backstage promos. Make it a digital exclusive. Slot in a women's match. Collision, we were getting 2 for a while. Rampage, we always get 1. You're going to have to really book the women better and really put an emphasis, especially you bring in Mercedes in. And Mercedes can't just be the Band-Aid. She can't just be, once you bring her in, you push her right to the title. She beats Timeless Tony, and that's it. If you're going to do it, you got to do it right, Tony, please. Good, consistent stories for the women. Rehash your women's division. Get it back to being great, as ironic as it sounds, and really put an emphasis on it. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for the show. Thank you so much here for watching. Thank you so much here for listening. You know what they always say, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes things are just not in our cards. And sometimes you just got to work harder. And that's a lesson that I'll be using for the future of this podcast. You just got to work harder. From here on out, ladies and gentlemen, this is my message to all of you. If you're listening, if you're watching, you can see it in my eyes. I got the passion. I got the burn. The fire burns inside of me. We will be there one day. We will be up there. And we will be a top wrestling podcast. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what they say. You know what I like to say to end every episode? Go out there and enjoy pro wrestling. From your host here, Mouthing Off with Mike, I'm out of here. Till next week, ladies and gentlemen.
Mouthing Off with Mike. Mouthing Off with Mike. Mouthing Off with Mike.